Ryan Day didn't think he was making any news inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, so it shouldn't really be that much news outside of it, should it? Ohio State has a starting quarterback. These are snap judgments. That is Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. It's Will Howard. Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised. No, we all thought it was going to happen today. Little nervous when Ryan Day went to the podium and didn't opt to make an opening statement about it. And then I got teed up with the first question. So just like starting quarterback. And he's like, yes, we have one. It's Will Howard. Significantly outperformed everyone on the field is the way that Ryan Day couched it, which is exactly what you want to hear. You want this to be cut and dry. This is our guy, no doubt about it. None of the tomfoolery of last year that Ryan Day sort of rehashed again on Thursday. This was the absolute clear decision for Ryan Day, for Chip Kelly, for everyone involved in the process, and Will Howard as his team's starting quarterback.
I think the most interesting thing about it is the little bit of a look into the psychology of what Ryan Day, I think, is acknowledging happened because of that last year. Mm-hmm. And saying, I mean, he said, I thought Devin Brown was going to be the starter, and then Kyle took it from him, and then it's like, uh-oh. And
I don't think he's ever actually said it that way before.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. To hear it so bluntly.
It was only hinted at.
Right. So that, and then the problem is with that is that what ended up happening a year ago was that Kyle McCord took the job and then tried to cede it back to Devin Brown in the middle of the season, and then Devin Brown got hurt, and then it became a moot point. So, like, I think about how different last year could have gone if the Penn State ankle injury doesn't happen to Devin Brown. But regardless, I mean, I don't know. The outcomes would have been different.
Yeah, there's almost no way to know what that would have looked like.
What we know is that there was never a moment where it felt like there was this much clarity for the quarterback room. Now, how does this impact Devin Brown moving forward? I mean, I think the clear point that was tried to be made by both Ryan Day and Chip Kelly on Thursday was Cardale Jones existed, and he left camp as the third-string quarterback at Ohio State. And, Max Duggan didn't start for TCU and ended up in New York at the Heisman ceremony.
Will Howard didn't start for Kansas State and won a Big 12 championship.
Hashtag don't transfer tomorrow. Which I don't think is a concern. But I do think that it's obvious that now there becomes this confidence assuaging situation that you have to work through. But he also...
But that's what I mean. I don't think he did that.
Yeah, because he didn't
because
say
he said that Julian Sayin is absolutely in the mix to be the backup.
So it's fascinating. But the clarity that he has here to say, and he started it a week ago when he said that Will Howard has complete command of the offense, which is something he never once said about anyone a year ago. That is why we all were so fully expecting this announcement to be made on Thursday morning. And I wonder how long it would have gone, because you didn't want to ask the quarterback question.
No, but...
So I wonder how long it would have gone.
Probably to the next person.
He was ready for it. That's why I was a little surprised that he didn't just make that the opening statement. Do
you feel like you got your question wasted?
Because Bill could...
No, I still got... Because Austin asked what I was going to ask, so it's all good.
Yeah, so, we work as a team.
Nobody asked
because Bill could have just said, hello, and then Ryan Day would have said it. And that would have counted as your question. Yeah. So...
Should I have just said opening statement, question mark? Just with a little upward inflection?
Just wondering how you were doing today, Ryan. And then he would have talked about it. I think that it's notable because we continue to get some questions about Devin Brown has had good camps. We've talked about the way he's thrown the deep ball. The people love him. And even this morning, I got questions like, is this a problem? Like, no, it's not a problem.
What would the problem be?
I think the problem was because people are thinking about what happened a year ago, that Berm is bringing that up and Ryan Day talking openly about it, that maybe it was an issue, like that somebody didn't clearly grab the job. And I've been trying to make that point that Will Howard has done that, and that Devin Brown can also be improved at the exact same time. I think both of those things are true. Ryan Day put that in, I think, as stark of terms as he possibly could have. I don't remember even when it was obvious that it was going to be Justin Fields, or when C.J. Stroud, the comment was starting to separate. Ryan Day never once said, this was significantly better than anybody else. He may not have had to do that with Justin Fields because that was by default.
No duh. Yeah.
But I think
Chris Chugginoff wasn't...
That was not going to happen.
I thought Chris Chugginoff was going to wear than Justin Fields sticking it for.
Yeah, I know.
No offense to Chugs.
Gunnar Hope fell off at the end.
Sorry to be disappointed by that. He didn't have to put it in those terms, so maybe he would have if we pressed him.
Yeah.
But in terms of like...
It's a point well made otherwise.
But he had to make that point this time because of what happened a year ago. Like, this is... again, the verbiage and the strength of the words is intentional, I think, on his part. So to maybe for his own mind to say, we're not going back. I'm not making a mistake here. I am confident in this decision and not allowing the outside noise to then shape what the narrative becomes. Because last year, I mean, again, we all were wondering, like, is Kyle McCord going to just pull away? Is Devin Brown is like there. And then, but it was always like, but Kyle, it should be Kyle's job. Like, that's the way the pecking order was established, right? So anything that was going to cause an upset there was going to be somewhat monumental. And that never happened. And then Kyle took the job. This time around, like, the pecking order was you brought in this guy from Kansas State who could have been a third or fourth round NFL draft pick, and you brought him in for a reason, and that was to be the starter. Like, that was the pecking order. And he, to Will's credit, clearly went out and shut the door on any of the other conversation.
Yeah, so I don't bring that up to say like that anyone was that. It's fine for there to have been skepticism after what Ohio State fans or even the coaching staff experienced a year ago, but I think that putting it in these terms that Ryan Day has, and then based on what we've seen from these practices, like there may be one thing that Devin Brown does demonstrably better than what we've seen from Will Howard at this point, which was throwing deep balls, although we've heard that Will Howard has had days where he's successfully pushed the ball down the field as well. When it comes to like quick release and maybe better accuracy, like Julian Sayin has done some of that. If it was throwing on the move, we've seen Lincoln Kienholz do some good things in that regard as well. But like the total package of what Will Howard has done, plus the veteran maturity, plus running almost 23 miles an hour at 237 pounds and 6'4", like that was a separator. The total package was not going to be to just look at one thing that each guy may do better than Will Howard. So I think that's where maybe the questions were coming from. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. But I think that there were way more pros checked in the one column than anywhere else.
There definitely were. I wonder if some of the I don't even know if concern is the right word, but even though this is the earliest Ryan Day has done this, where it's the 15th, it's probably about 6 days or so earlier that he's done it in the past. It still felt a little drawn out, right? So maybe people were like, well, why wasn't this done coming out of spring? I don't think he could have done it coming out of spring. Why wasn't this done earlier in camp? And then the longer it lingers, the more time there is for you to just sort of play every scenario, good and bad, kind of through your head and get yourself into a little bit of a tizzy. But like that was never at play here. Like I don't think there was really, probably from the day one of camp when I thought Will Howard looked pretty good. Devin Brown had a good start to camp too, but it was like, okay, Will is better. He's definitely better than he was in the spring. Can he keep building on it? And then he did. We had the opportunity to kind of watch that happen with the coaching staff over those first 4 days of camp, and then a fifth practice only a few days later. It was clear, like day after day after day, Will was getting better, and it sounds like he was very good in the scrimmage on Saturday. So it was never like, oh, I'm not sure if this is the guy. It was just like, no, there is a process to this. The process was shorter this time, thankfully, but there's a process nonetheless. It does take a couple days, a couple weeks to come to the solution, and they came to it. I'm not worried at all about indecisiveness or anything creeping into this process now moving forward.
There's certainly still a world where Ryan Day could have said, well, seeing separation, but there's another scrimmage coming on Saturday. Yep. Back that up and carry that in. He did not do that.
You could allow yourself to get caught up into the quagmire again. And to go back to what you were saying, when you ask why Will Howard, like, yes, every quarterback seems to have the thing that they do the best, but Will Howard does those things as well, but then he also has the experience and the pocket presence and the size. Like, he can throw the deep ball. The conversation, the worry about him throwing the ball down the field, I think is manufactured simply because he didn't do that very much at Kansas State because he had no receivers who could catch the ball down the field. And so when you put him with these dudes, which are different, and then you see the accuracy, you see the velocity, you see the ability to throw it down the field, then you couple that with the size, the experience, the pocket presence, the way that he handles pressure. All of those things make this a no-brainer. And that's why, like, we've been saying kind of for the last 2 weeks, like, this is an inevitability. It's going to be Will Howard. So, how you balance it from here on out, I think is interesting. Ryan Day, it seemed to me, was pretty intentional in the way that he listed the quarterbacks after Will Howard, saying that Devin Brown will be the backup, then Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz and Aaron Nolan. Like, to me, it seemed like that's the pecking order going into Akron. And then behind Will Howard, anything can happen.
I think that may be what happens for Akron, but correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. The way he said it was, that those three guys were still going to be competing in the scrimmage. Like, I
Yes.
do think that Devin Brown will be the backup quarterback for this team, but that I don't think he said this is what it's going to be for Akron,
He
because
didn't. Yeah,
He said Will Howard will be the starter for Akron, and then we'll have.
he said he was still going to roll the other guys
Yeah.
on Saturday. So
he didn't totally slam the door shut on the potentiality of someone else being QB2 at some point.
Well, I mean, obviously, he said it absolutely when asked.
Well, I was just going to ask like what you guys made of that, because he didn't leave any gray area when asked. He was asked specifically about Julian Sand, but he didn't. The way he answered it did not leave any like wiggle room to misinterpret it.
To me, that the way that unfolds is very much a byproduct / result of what you see happening in the future. It has nothing to do really with this year. Like, if it comes down to Ohio State's playing against Purdue in November and Will Howard has to come out of the game for a few snaps, I would bet it's Devin Brown.
It's a different yeah.
Yeah,
But if you're thinking, okay, how do we prepare for, like, do we anticipate? These are things you just can't know today. We're 2 hours removed after these announcements are made. So, do you think Devin Brown's going to be here next year? Because if you're not 100% confident of that, which I don't know you can be, then how do you not start preparing for Julian Sand to be the next guy who Ryan Day said is going to play a lot of football at Ohio State? Like, that doesn't seem on accident to me, but it is a different conversation between this year and the future.
I think, at least for this early portion of the season, and I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, the emergency case is Devin Brown as QB2, though we put a 50-burger on Akron in the first half case is probably a little more fluid of who might come to the game next.
What about-
That's my read on it.
Let me go positive berm here.
oh yeah.
What if
I love
Ohio
this guy.
State loses to Iowa and Oregon with Will Howard at quarterback?
Who cares? They're still in the playoff hunt.
Do you abandon ship then and
I don't
start
want to have
moving
that
toward the future?
conversation.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I like to mix it
What
up.
if Ohio State is
How-
4-2 before Halloween? Like,
I like to
don't wanna
spice
have
it
that
up. I
So
like
conversation.
you're saying that they lost those two games and it was solely related to the quarterback?
Yeah, let's say it was quarterback
Because
play.
remember, C.J. Stroud was not the reason that Ohio State lost to Oregon in 2021.
that was one loss.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
This is the conversation you want to have on the
I
day
want
they
to have
named Will
all
Howard.
the conversations, man. I like
Jeez.
it. I like to stick in there and mix it up.
Gross. These have been snap judgments. Ohio State has a starting quarterback. We mixed it up with Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham.
Think about it, America. It's a thought exercise, okay?
Don't think about it. Just be excited.
Just
But you should be excited. Will Howard's going to be a good quarterback. Put your money on Will Howard to be a Heisman finalist right now.
I bet the odds are starting to shrink on that. So if you got it in early, good. There's a lot more to talk about because we heard from Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles in addition to Ryan Day. So we're going to do that with some takeaways on the podcast daily for Freaky Friday. But these, though, have been snap judgments. Bill Berm, I'm Austin. We'll talk to you then.